How do I create a new quiz in BlazeVIEW? In this video, we'll be going over the basics of creating a new quiz. For more specific, detailed information, make sure you visit the rest of the instructor FAQ and the instructor guides. To begin, from your course homepage, choose Assessments and then Quizzes. To create a new quiz, select the blue New Quiz button. First, let's take a look at the options available in the Properties tab. You must give your quiz a name. Optional, you can put your quiz into a category. If there are no categories available, you can create a category. This merely organizes your quizzes on your quiz page. Next, you'll add or edit already existing questions. You can add questions manually that you create within the quiz, or you can import questions from a file or your question library. Next, you can determine if you would like to add a description or an introduction. Descriptions and introductions are places where you will include the directions for your students. They will see these options before they enter the quiz. Next, determine if you would like to include a header and a footer. A header and a footer will be available for students throughout the quiz. For example, a foreign language teacher might choose to include a list of letters with accent marks in the header or footer so that students can copy them and place them in answers. Lastly, we have optional advanced properties. This includes allowing hints. If you create a question with a hint, you must enable this feature. Disabling right-click, which will mean that students cannot print your quiz. Or restricting the user's communication access. So this means that if a student has your quiz open and in progress, they cannot access email, instant messages, or generic classroom alerts. Next, let's review the Restrictions tab. Here in the Restrictions tab, you can set a due date, as well as start dates and end dates. You can also decide if you would like this quiz to display in the calendar. If you only want specific students having access to the quiz, or if students must complete a series of tasks before they can take the quiz, you can attach release conditions here. Next, you can provide a password. Then, you can choose timing options for your quiz. A recommended time limit means that students will have however long they'd like to take their quiz, but you can give them a recommended limit. An enforced time limit means that students will only have this amount of time available. There is always a grace period, however, you can adjust that grace period as needed. And finally, you can decide if students need special access. Generally, we add students to special access when they need accommodations, like extended due date or extended time. Let's move on to the Assessment tab. Here, you can set the quiz to be automatically graded as students complete it. This is a great option if your quiz is nothing but auto-graded items. However, if your quiz contains items that must be manually graded, do not select this option. If you do, the quiz will automatically be set at a 0. Next, you can tie your quiz to a grade item. If no grade items exist, you can create a grade item here. Once you've attached your quiz to a grade item, you can then choose to automatically export to the gradebook. We recommend you select this option. And finally, on the Assessment tab, you can decide how many attempts students will be allowed to complete your quiz. It defaults to 1 attempt. However, you can choose as many as you want. Moving on to the Objectives tab. Here, you can associate learning objectives with your quiz. In order to create learning objectives, you must do this prior to creating your quiz. You'll do that through the Design tab. Next, Submission Views. The default submission view is that students will be unable to see any questions or answers directly after submitting. However, you can change your default view or add additional views. Other view options allow students to view questions they've answered incorrectly, correctly, view answers, view questions without user responses, and view their question score out of. And finally, the Reports Setup tab. Here, you can add reports. This is a great way to collect data for your quizzes. You can create report types based on question statistics, question details, user statistics, attempt details, and user attempts. When you have created a report, simply provide it with a name, save, and now, upon completion of your quiz, you will be able to pull reports. When you are done, choose Save and Close. And now we can see our brand new quiz is in our Current Quiz tab.